आप मुझे थोड़ा सा बता सकते हैं कि एक्चुअली स्ट्रक्चरिंग होती क्या और वो किन कंपनीज के लिए और किस लेवल के बिजनेसेस के लिए इंपॉर्टेंट है?
Globally, structuring जो होती है ना, that revolves around tax. We are going in the direction of levying personal tax as well, income tax. There was an element of legacy planning. There's an element of business planning in terms of avoiding disputes between the shareholders.
लोग टैक्स बेनिफिट्स के लिए यहाँ पे मूव करते हैं. अगर उनको हम वो एडवाइस नहीं करेंगे तो आई
defeat the purpose. Anything which is less than 500,000 dirham, you can take it to the small claim tribunal. You cannot even engage a lawyer for that. One of the main differences between a common law and civil law jurisdiction was the routes are different. Bigger the claim, the more the fee. For 100 million claim, easily you will end up spending 1 million. Would you be able to recover that in Dubai courts? No. Abdullah, don't even bother, go to DIFC court. You want certainty.
The court said that this contract is not complying the legalities of the systems. Contracts को draft करने के लिए भी basically what you need is a proper legal expert.
You were trying to save $3,000-$5,000. You end up spending maybe $20,000 in the court.
or end up spending your own life in the jail also. Execution of the judgment तो एक free zone नहीं करा सकता ना.
When there is a fraud, then there is no jurisdiction issue. So you go after the person wherever he is residing. Criminal jurisdiction is different. Civil jurisdiction is different. Double taxation treaty in essence होती क्या है? Permits a person to be taxed once in one jurisdiction.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम इमरान भाई, कैसे हैं आप? ठीक ठाक हैं?
सलाम, थैंक यू वेरी मच.
मुझे लगता है हम ये पॉडकास्ट दो पार्ट्स में करेंगे. एक तो हमें दो कपड़े दिखाने का मौका मिल जाएगा.
Really happy to have a series of podcasts because there are a lot of areas and I don't think even if we had spent an hour on it, we would have been able to cover it. Material इतना ज़्यादा है कि we rather focus on something which is in your line of business, something which directly has an impact. And one thing I picked up on was basically structuring. But anyway, आप बताएं.
हाँ, नहीं वो तो मैंने अक्सा को बताया था. अक्सा से जब मेरी बात हो रही थी, मैंने कहा था हम जब पॉडकास्ट करने जाए तो कहती कुछ तुम्हारी प्रेपरेशन है. मैंने कहा प्रेपरेशन क्या है? इमरान भाई ने जुगत मारी तो जुगता चलेंगी. काम दी गल हुई तो फिर काम के हिसाब से चलेंगे. ठीक है, चलें. मेरे ख्याल से मुझे भी थोड़ा सा ऐसे करना था. हम इसको ना थोड़ा डिवाइड करते हैं. एक तो स्ट्रक्चरिंग प्रोसेस के बारे में हम बात करेंगे. उसके बाद हम जो फाइनेंशियल फ्री जोन्स हैं उनके ऊपर किस तरह से लिटिगेशंस और ये वाला प्रोसेस चलता है वो हम अपना दूसरा पार्ट रखेंगे. हमें टाइम मिलेगा नेक्स्ट टाइम, अगर आप हमें टाइम देंगे तो हम करेंगे.
बिल्कुल देंगे.
ठीक है. और उसके बाद हम थर्ड पार्ट करेंगे कि जो हमारे DIFC कोर्ट्स, ADGM कोर्ट्स और हमारा जो मेन कोर्ट है उनके दरमियान कैसे कोरिलेट करते हैं, किस टाइप की हम चीज़ें करते हैं. तो लेट्स स्टार्ट विद द स्ट्रक्चरिंग. आप मुझे थोड़ा सा बता सकते हैं कि एक्चुअली स्ट्रक्चरिंग होती क्या और वो किन कंपनीज के लिए और किस लेवल के बिजनेसेस के लिए इंपॉर्टेंट है?
यार देख, स्ट्रक्चरिंग का द मेन इशू हिस्टोरिकली जो स्ट्रक्चरिंग होती थी वो UAE में people did not bother with the structuring as such. उसकी वजह ये होती थी कि globally structuring जो होती है ना, that revolves around tax. That was a main driver of how do you structure. That's why the offshore jurisdictions came into existence. There were jurisdictions where there are no taxes. So globally this is the reason. Now the biggest change over the years which has come in UAE especially is the imposition of tax. Not only VAT, corporate tax.
Of course.
And there is a we are going in the direction of levying personal tax as well, income tax jo hota. So probably another 2 years, 3 years, you will eventually end up having your income taxed at a lower rate. You want to make it competitive to the West, where the rates are significantly higher than probably what will be levied over here. So I think, so that is what is going to drive the structuring now, not the legal structuring in terms of you want to have a holding company and then you want to have your operating companies underneath. All of that is now history. Okay. So now our structuring advice is very simple, that we have to work with your tax consultant. We have to see the tax implications of how do you want to structure. Now structuring is a very simple term, is a very simple tool how to ensure that there was an element of legacy planning. If God forbid something happens to the owners of businesses, how would it be dealt with? There's an element of business planning in terms of avoiding disputes between the shareholders, so on and so forth. So typical structure pre-tax pre-tax laws in UAE was that you would want to start with DIFC, because a lot of the expats, and the reason why we were encouraging clients to go into DIFC to, let's say, holding company, put a holding company structure, was because DIFC is a common law English jurisdiction. It has its own courts, it has its own laws, so on and so forth, as opposed to the civil law, which is followed and applied in the local courts. So that was one significant difference. So people coming from the UK, from Pakistan, India, any Western jurisdiction where there is common law. Common law, again, very quickly, one of the main differences between a common law and civil law jurisdiction was, in civil law jurisdiction, UAE is primarily a civil law jurisdiction, the roots are different. So civil law is basically based on Roman law, and it's basically a codified set of laws. You have a book which says this is civil law, this is your contract law, so on and so forth, and the judges will be bound by that laws.
Okay.
As opposed to common law has a lot of flexibility. How flexible? So the flexibility, you still have laws, but they're subject to interpretation by the judges. The judges have the flexibility of relying on any previously issued judgments. So England is the best example, for example, in Pakistan or India even. You have the Supreme Court. So whatever judgments have been issued on the interpretation of the law or otherwise by the Supreme Court, the High Court is bound by it. So this is the common law. So common law is basically based on tradition, customs of the UK, England basically. And over the years it has evolved. Now obviously, so one might say that the civil courts in UAE, for instance, the civil system, that encourages judges to interpret the law. To a certain extent, they've started to take because see, the precedent system is based on the backdrop of basically the judgments being made available, the subsequent judgments. So there has to be a system of reporting. Judges would want to see, okay, if this is the point of law which has been debated, discussed, and judgment issued, they should have access to that judgment. The problem with the civil law jurisdiction was there was no reporting of the judgment as such. So if I want to explore something, where do I go? But that is changing.
Yeah.
So over the years, these things are being compiled, put together. You have various platforms being introduced for lawyers as well, where these judgments are being put up. So common law system, civil law system, they're moving towards each other in a way. There's still some very basic fundamental differences, but I am seeing a lot of overlapping now. Because of the local Arabic language, which obviously majority of the expats in UAE are non-Arabic speakers.
Yeah.
So the moment I tell them the DIFC courts are English laws, everything, you can even read the laws yourself.
Yes.
And the good thing about the DIFC, and similarly with ADGM came into existence a bit later, but the basics, foundations are the same. So you would have a small claim tribunal. So anything which is less than 500,000 dirham, you can take it to the small claim tribunal. You cannot even engage a lawyer for that. You can have a lawyer prepare the case for you, but you as a litigant in person, you can go there, appear in person and deal with the matter yourself. So there's no language hindrance. The laws are clear. So that's a big advantage. That's a big advantage over the local courts.
Yeah, of course.
The bigger disputes, then we start getting into pros and cons, but the major attraction for someone who goes into the DIFC, and the reason why we tell them to go into the DIFC, is that their ability to understand and predict the outcome with to a certain extent. That this is your case. A similar case was decided, or similar cases were decided, and your judgment, if it comes out, is going to be very similar based on the precedent system.
Okay.
UAE courts, you can't say that with certainty.
Of course.
So the structuring ties into this. You tell them, okay, go to the DIFC court. This is the holding company. Yes, you have the operating company set up in Dubai onshore. You can have different verticals, but the shareholders will sit at the holding company level. Plus, if you want to bring in investors, it's a lot easier. It's very difficult to change the shareholding at the DD level, power of attorney, this document, that document. DIFC is a click of a button. Literally everything is online, seamless, very efficient, and you feed the documents, press a button.
And whatever changes you make, it automatically trickle down to the structure.
Everything. So that's the advantage. But again, subject to now tax advice. Whether it's more advantageous for you to have a structure in the DIFC where all the dividends then flow to the DIFC, or it's more tax efficient for you to have a holding company maybe not in the DIFC.
Yeah,
So
some
that,
other.
but we don't advise on tax matters. But obviously, we work with tax consultants. We have to work with tax consultants.
You have to work because यहाँ पे मैं हमेशा कहता हूँ कि बनानास तो उगते नहीं, लोग टैक्स बेनिफिट्स के लिए यहाँ पे मूव करते हैं. अगर उनको हम वो एडवाइस नहीं करेंगे तो आई थिंक यस इट डिफीट्स द पर्पस. अच्छा, एक तो होता है पार्ट जजमेंट का, जैसे आपने बताया DIFC कोर्ट पे आपको इंटरनेशनल लेवल का लीगल सिस्टम मिलता है जहाँ पे आपको जजमेंट्स मिल जाती हैं. अब उनकी दूसरी चीज़ है एग्जीक्यूशन ऑफ द जजमेंट. तो वो एग्जीक्यूशन ऑफ द जजमेंट तो एक फ्री जोन नहीं करा सकता ना.
वो मैं आपको बताता हूँ उसमें होता क्या. सो यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड कि एग्जीक्यूशन वहाँ उस कोर्ट में होती है और उस कोर्ट की जुरिसडिक्शन में होती है जहाँ पे एसेट्स होते हैं.
ओके,
ठीक है. नाउ एसेट्स कुड बी इन टिम्बकटू, एसेट्स कुड बी इन उमुल कोवैन, फुजैरा, अजमान, व्हाटएवर. आप दुबई कोर्ट की जजमेंट लेंगे, वो भी आपको वहीं लेके जानी है.
ओके,
एग्जीक्यूशन वहाँ लेके जानी है. दुबई कोर्ट की जजमेंट का थोड़ा सा वो ये फ़ायदा होता है कि अगर दुबई में एसेट्स हैं तो फिर वो जजमेंट थोड़ी इट्स ओनली मैटर ऑफ टाइम.
अच्छा,
maybe a few days here and there. That's it. There's no major advantage to it. Now, so if you want to compare, let's say, a high value claim in Dubai, let's say the claim is 10 million, 20 million dirham, and you have a claim which can also be brought into the DIFC. DIFC, the best thing about the DIFC, or one of the main advantages, is that when you go to DIFC court and you win the case, you can recover your legal costs from the other side. Dubai doesn't allow you to do that. So enforceability is one aspect of it. Now DIFC court judgment is as good or as bad when it comes to enforceability. It's as good or as bad as Dubai court judgment. The procedure is identical. So you take a DIFC court judgment, you start execution. You take a Dubai court judgment, you start execution. The procedures are not very, they are not too dissimilar. Okay. Yes, everything then has to be, assuming the assets are in Dubai, the judgment will have to be translated into Arabic, will have to be filed there. May take a few days here and there, but in the grand scheme of things, because see, litigation, Abdullah, is very expensive. So for a 10 million claim, a local lawyer will charge you probably maybe 7-8%
minimum.
Okay, so DIFC court, even though the fee structure will not be, maybe slightly more expensive, maybe cheaper, but the good thing is that you can recover all of it. And that's a main difference.
That's what I faced in the Dubai court. End of the day वो फैसले में लिखा हुआ था कि 1,000 दिरहम इसको इसके लिए. मैंने कहा 1,000 दिरहम मैं कौन ढूंढता होगा.
The bigger the claim, the more the fee.
Yeah, of course.
And the more, so it all depends on the nature of the contract. If you're signing a contract worth 100 million dirham, Abdullah, don't even bother go to DIFC court. Because God forbid something goes wrong in a 100 million dirham claim, you want certainty. You want to know what are you signing up for, and you want your lawyer to tell you that if something goes wrong, then these are going to be the costs. You get a cost estimate from both courts, and then you decide. It's a no-brainer. There's no comparison. For a 100 million claim, easily you will end up spending 1 million. Would you be able to recover that in Dubai courts? No, not at all.
Never.
Impossible. So the DIFC court, you get your legal costs, court fee, everything you spend in the court, fee for the experts, so on and so forth.
Yeah, because expert fees, then they put the auditors and these kind of, they are the additional fees.
DIFC court doesn't do that. You don't even have, you only hire a lawyer. If the matter is complicated, then you can, construction matters, complicated banking matters. See, again, you need to understand the history of all the big banks, financial centers out of New York, London, Hong Kong, Singapore. They are all used to English law. They will not want to be exposed to the local courts. So they will always opt in. Anyone who comes here, big investments, anything, DIFC court is a starting point. Unless and until, I would want to see why they do that. They may, so the competition in a way, if you want to call it, is between DIFC court and arbitration.
Yeah.
Arbitration is also good, but arbitration is expensive. And again, arbitration is only in matters where it's complex. So construction matters, you're building, let's say, roads, infrastructure contract, airport, dam, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
These are $1 billion contracts.
Yes.
So you want to go into arbitration, because arbitration then is, the advantage with arbitration is you get to appoint an arbitrator. An arbitrator is someone who's an expert. Let's say he would have an engineering background, he would have financial services background. They're not judges. They're experts in that subject matter. So they understand the complexities. Okay, so you've got the local courts, you've got DIFC courts, ADGM, and then you have arbitration.
Yeah.
So in terms of Small contracts, low value, probably 100,000, 200,000, Dubai court, fine, no problem, go there.
But I don't think so that any medium level business falls in that.
Yeah.
$10-12 million से नीचे का तो
Then depends on the nature of the contract. You need to get proper legal advice before
ये
you
यही
sign the
मेरा
contract.
नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन है. नाउ द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स, यही अभी आपने हमें बताया कि कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट.
Yes.
सो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स को ड्राफ्ट करने के लिए भी बेसिकली व्हाट यू नीड इज अ प्रॉपर legal expert, because because in Dubai court I faced sometimes that the court said that this contract is not complying the legalities of the system, so that's why whatever आपने इस contract में लिखा है
It's rubbish.
it's rubbish. It's throw it in
out.
yeah. So
So again, so see, a lot of people actually, unfortunately, they don't understand the value a professional brings on board.
Yeah.
So it's like similar things can happen. When you're consulting a banker or a company service provider or a doctor. Sometimes people they say no, it's fine, no problem. It's too small a matter. I've got a headache. I won't go to the doctor. No problem. I'll take paracetamol.
Yeah.
But if the headache persists for 2, 3, 4, 5 days, then God forbid there is something wrong, right? Then you have to go get your maybe MRI done, CT scan done, and turns out, God forbid, there is a tumor or something.
of
So
course
it can be serious. So probably yes, on smaller contracts, then it's a question of the value is maybe $100,000, 200,000. But see, contracts, simple contracts, if it's a matter of buying goods, sale, purchase agreement, that sort of stuff, people can actually draft simple contracts for $3, $4, $5,000.
yeah,
So it's not even a huge expense these days.
not at all.
Costs are very competitive. Again, costs are very competitive. So, and if something goes wrong, then you were trying to save $3, $4, $5,000. You end up spending maybe $20,000 in the
No,
court.
or end up spending your own life in the jail also.
That too. That too. So there may be parts of it, which have a criminal element.
Yeah.
Regulatory issues.
Yeah.
Like right now we were working with a client who invested like $200,000, not a big amount, but that 200 and the contract, and this is coming from a banker who signed a contract, and I told him, why did you even sign this contract?
Yeah.
It's such a such a rubbish contract.
Yes.
I said, you are a financial, you do this day in and day out for clients.
Yeah.
But when you've invested your own money, you did not even read the contract properly.
So now beep कर देना उस client के नाम पे जो मैं ले रहा हूँ का केस देखा हुआ DIFC में, और मेरे सुनने में आया कि यूके में उसकी एग्जीक्यूशन हुई है.
सी दुनिया होगी बड़ी छोटी. ये जो बड़े एसेट मैनेजर्स होते हैं, फंड मैनेजर्स होते हैं, पैसे कहीं से ले रहे होते हैं, इन्वेस्ट कहीं और कर रहे होते हैं, खुद बैठे कहीं और होते हैं. सो उसमें होता फिर क्या है कि इस क्लाइंट के साथ हम भी बड़ा इन्वॉल्व थे. सो आई कैन टेल यू,
मैं भी असल में था थोड़ा सा.
उसमें प्रॉब्लम्स बहुत ज़्यादा थी.
अच्छा.
सो दैट्स नॉट अ वेरी गुड एग्जांपल टू डिस्कस विद समवन जो कि I don't know who your target audience is. They may not be able to appreciate the subtleties of all of this. But I'll try and sum it up very quickly for you. So, again, for tax reasons, the money was being collected in a tax-free jurisdiction. Cayman, BVR, there's no taxes.
Yes.
And then the money was being invested globally.
Yes.
But some of the decision makers were sitting in the UK, US, and UAE.
Yeah.
Now there was allegation of fraud. So when there is a fraud, then there is no jurisdiction issue. So you go after the person wherever he is residing. So if he's UAE, UK, US, you'll go after him there. But the civil part of it, in terms of your ability to recover as an investor, will be determined by the documents, investment documents.
Paper.
If the documents say that the jurisdiction that I'm putting in X amount and the jurisdiction is Cayman courts, unfortunately you have to go to Cayman courts.
Yes.
You get a judgment, and then question becomes of enforceability. Where is the company? Where are the decision makers? Then you go after them wherever they may be, UK, US, wherever they have assets.
Yes.
So this is a very, it becomes a very complicated issue.
Yeah.
It's not a very straightforward issue. But short answer to your question is, criminal jurisdiction is different, civil jurisdiction
Of course.
is different. Criminal jurisdiction is by and large dictated by where the crime was committed.
Yes.
So if the crime was committed in UAE authorities will have jurisdiction. If the crime is continuing into the UK will also have jurisdiction. So that's where. So let's say the crime was initiated in or took place in UAE, fraud was committed over here. The courts will then issue an Interpol warrant.
Yeah.
Interpol notice. So the person will have to be extradited.
Yeah.
And this is what the US is actually trying to do in getting that person from the UK to be brought for trial in the US.
But for this, the countries should have the treaties amongst them. You cannot.
Yeah, extradition treaties hoti hain, but then if the matter is of a very serious nature, they can even do it on a bilateral basis. But yes, the treaty facilitates everything. So the extradition or whatever, sharing of information, for instance, we have a lot of treaties where CRS, for instance.
Yes.
Okay, CRS now has made it very easy for the tax authorities to share information globally.
Yes.
Criminal extradition is totally different. Obviously, it makes the process smoother. It's easier. The facilitation is a lot easier, speedy, quicker. But then we've had instances where UAE, for instance, has handed over criminals, people who've been involved in crime abroad, in Europe and Pakistan, India, handed over. That's even without a treaty, you can do that. But obviously, the state where the criminal is residing, that needs to be they need to be convinced that the allegation against them is solid. Because UK, for instance, they have treaties, but they've got a very solid judicial system.
Yes.
So, the person, if you can convince the court that allegations may be substantive, but before that there is a hurdle you have to prove to the satisfaction of the court. The authorities, the prosecution in the country where allegedly the crime was committed, they will have to convince the UK courts that they have a judicial system which is robust and the person's rights will be protected. Because UK courts are very concerned with human rights. That this guy will not have a fair trial wherever he's being taken, and that's why they may refuse, they may decline.
Yeah.
So this is why you see,
And this happens a lot of time.
it happens a lot of time, and for the right reason.
Yeah.
There may be 100 people in which maybe 2 or 3 are crooks,
Yeah.
but majority are people who've left their country because the human rights are not there.
For the asylum
Asylum seekers, for
yes,
instance.
yes.
So the courts will actually, they will lean in favor of maybe the judicial system is abused, and maybe exploited by the criminals. But the majority of the people who actually go to the UK courts, they are innocent people, and they've left their country in circumstances where they feared for their life. And a very good example, asylum seekers.
Okay.
So that's basically.
So
what it is.
next time I'm leaving you with the topics. हम टैक्स ट्रीटीज पे बात करना चाहेंगे. आपसे पूछना ये चाहता हूँ कि जब ये टैक्स ट्रीटीज इस तरह की चीज़ होती है तो इनको डील कैसे किया जाता है. ठीक है.
डील माने
मतलब एक चीज़ है कि अगर एक बंदा है, उसकी यहाँ पे DIFC में कंपनीज हैं जहाँ पे, और उसके पास यहाँ पे TRC टैक्स रेजिडेंस सर्टिफिकेट है, तो उसके अपने होम कंट्रीज में उसको उस इनकम को कैसे ट्रीट किया जाएगा.
So that's where the double taxation treaties come.
Yes.
So double taxation treaty in essence होती क्या है कि it basically permits a person to be taxed once in one jurisdiction. So if a person, let's say, is paying tax in UAE, then the double taxation treaty will say that the Pakistani authorities, for instance, or wherever his home jurisdiction is, he cannot be taxed there. So that's how, and people obviously do this if and they'll pay tax in a country which has a lower tax rate. So people take advantage of that. But this is all driven by the tax authorities, and they take into consideration all of these aspects before a tax treaty is signed. And I think UAE probably is. I think they've signed a lot of double taxation treaties.
Yeah.
Even when they did not have taxes over here. The funny thing is.
Yes. उसी के सर पे तो हम चल रहे थे.
लेकिन अब वो things have changed.
Yeah,
लेकिन अभी भी there are a lot of advantages, because as long as they keep the tax rate low, people would want to come here and be tax residents in UAE.
Yeah, of course. And there are so many other ways. इन्होंने जैसे real estate पे tax नहीं है और बाकी चीजों पे.
नहीं, there are a lot of advantages, but that is a subject you're better off in exploring with a tax consultant.
Yeah, okay. So being a legal consultant, you'll be called once again if you have time. And thank you very much. And we would like to continue this discussion.
Really, Friday is a good day.
Friday is a good day. So, okay. I hope that we'll not make the glitches we made this time.